We often believe having an impairment is only a disadvantage. Well, it may also have advantages. One example among others, I have a hearing aid. The nice part about it is that I have also an application on my mobile phone, and I can increase the volume, or on the contrary, just close my ears. Can you do the same? My core message is that we can, and we should do better when it comes to inclusion of persons with disabilities in MSF humanitarian action.
Don't you think we have enough to do?
For a humanitarian organization, using the argument, "we have enough to do," to exclude the ones who need us the most, that doesn't sound very humanitarian, no?
Humanitarian action is about impartiality, meaning addressing in priority the needs of the most vulnerable groups. And in places where we work, persons with disabilities are often among the most vulnerable groups.
But we talk about very few people.
Well, in fact, no. About 1 billion people, 15% of the world's population, have some form of disability.
And moreover, for instance, this report already released in 2014 by Help Age and Handicap International, an organization known today as Humanity and Inclusion, showed us that 22% of Syrian refugees in the refugee settings in Jordan and Lebanon had an impairment.
But where are they? We do not see them.
Precisely. Children with disabilities and persons with disabilities are often the most hidden in countries where we work. Victims of prejudice, stigma, taboos, and discrimination, they are often invisible. Also, we should not forget that the largest part of disabilities are invisible disabilities. In MSF, we often raise the issue of the forgotten crisis. Persons with disabilities are one of these forgotten crises. A crisis may be also forgotten by MSF itself.
Sorry, but it's too expensive. We just cannot afford it.
As we will see, many possible actions do not involve any additional cost. And when it comes to building accessibility, experts estimate the additional cost can be as little as 1% of the total cost, if planned from the outset. What is sure is that it will cost more and may become very difficult if you want to make your buildings accessible at a later stage.
Anyway, we do not have the expertise. It will cost a lot of money.
No worries. We can do it. Some simple actions can make a real difference. Let us show you some very good starting points. I propose 6 simple key principles for change to become an organization more inclusive of people with disabilities. Key Principle 1. Raise awareness about the risk of exclusion of persons with disabilities, starting with your colleagues and your team. The main barriers to inclusion are attitudes, negative attitudes often based on wrong assumptions. Wrong assumptions about what people with disabilities can do and cannot do. Do not hesitate to use local organizations of persons with disabilities to sensitize your team. You can also use this video and our course online. Key Principle 2. Use accessibility and universal design when building facilities, making them suitable for wheelchair users and other groups of people with reduced mobility or functionality. Feel free to use local expertise and MSF guidelines on accessibility available on our portal. Remember, it is cheaper to make facilities accessible in the construction phase than to have to adapt them after. Think about it when launching a new construction. Take reconstruction after a natural catastrophe as an opportunity to rebuild with accessibility in mind. Think about wheelchair users and promote slopes, adapted toilets, large enough doors, and free passages. Key Principle 3. Use 2 ways of communication in your campaigns: visual and audio, text and sound, posters and radio. This will allow you to reach a broader audience, both people with hearing impairment and people with visual impairment. Key Principle 4. Map, contact and collaborate with organizations representative of persons with disabilities. They may have data on the situation people with disabilities are facing in the region where you work. They can work with you on the design of your project or evaluate the accessibility of your premises. They may be able to sensitize your team on inclusion or to recruit persons with disabilities. They can also be trained as peer educators and use their networks to pass important messages for health promotion. Key Principle 5. Proactively recruit persons with disabilities among your staff. We often have a lot of prejudice about what persons with disabilities can do and cannot do. Persons with disabilities have the experience of living with a disability in the region where you work, and they may help you to better understand the needs of persons with disabilities in this region. They may also have some very interesting additional skills, like knowing sign language, for instance. It is as easy as stating that persons with disabilities are encouraged to apply. Key Principle 6. Include the views and needs of people with disabilities in your needs assessment and project design, monitoring, and evaluation. Keep the patients and the patients with disabilities at the center of our medical action.
I still do not agree.
Be gone.
Inclusion of persons with disabilities is easy. We can do something. Let's just do it.
Right on.